Hey, this is Matt Wallace. I am going to do a demo of the first proof of concept assignment, part A, module 1. And if you go on Blackboard and take a look at it, you'll see it's got your client instructions here up at the top, and then my notes down below, just like I think I mentioned in the introduction video. So this one's a little bit strange, only because usually the proof of concept stuff will have the files you need sort of attached. And this one is more like what real world work is actually like, which maybe is weird to start off with, but I thought it'd be interesting. So a lot of times you get clients that don't really have good file naming, or they don't organize their assets or things like that, and they'll just send you a folder full of junk or a zip archive full of stuff. And so a part of this first exercise is to go through and sort of deal with all this stuff they sent you and use it to accomplish what they want. And so I already have it saved here. And I mean, just myself, what I like to do and stuff like this is to figure it out. Okay, so someone with an iPad, or I guess a tablet. Person. Okay, and just go through and name them so that, you know, once they're actually in After Effects, I can see what they are. But for this one, I won't make you sit here while I name all those. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can go to File, Import, and import all your files, or hit Apple I, and that will import them. I'm just going to drag them in because sometimes I have to navigate through my file structures, and that's boring for you to watch. So here we go. It's importing them all, and that's like a fun thing. And then, so we've got all these, and if you read the client's instructions, it says that they need a name tag bumper, so like a little intro video with your name on it. It's got a name tag file in there, or a hello, my name is sort of a thing. And a part of the goal of this is to practice the submission format that's in the course information, and just to start learning your way around some of the interface. So there's lots of great introduction videos like this all over the place, but I'll try and do a little bit here. Just so over here, this is your project window. So this is your project panel. This is where all your files that you import are going to be stored. So I advise, especially when you're starting to get organized, to create little folders. You can do it however you want. I like to do it with file types, because then, you know, if you know how certain file types behave and what they do, then you know everything in that folder is going to be such and such type of thing. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I try to give you a variety of different file types. So there's some random music tracks in here. Okay, EPS. So, you know, EPS and Illustrator files are vector. So AI, Adobe Illustrator, and EPS. I like to put all my file types in one place, so all the vector files will go right there. And then these are, you can tell from the little QuickTime icon, these are going to be videos, and this one says MOV, so you know that one. So we'll make a MOV, and then if we have any MP4s or something, I'll put those in there. I'll put those in there too. And so one of these actually has an alpha channel, which is kind of fun to work with. But yeah, I don't know, we won't get too ahead of ourselves. So there we've got everything organized. And then we'll create a new composition. And I usually like to just make mine 1920 by 1080. Computers are fast enough now that you can do lots of basic effects at 1080p, and it won't really take forever. So let's go ahead and do that, and it just automatically names it Comp1, Composition 1. So it's a good idea to rename them to keep track. So enter, and then we'll name it, let's see, I'll do it with my name. This is module number 1, and this is proof of concept A. So there, Wallace 1A. There, we're inside of it. So just to go, so we've got our project panel over here. This is where we view what we're actually working on, right here. Down here we got our timeline panel. So there's a lot of little teeny things here that you probably won't really need to mess with. And in fact, I recommend not messing with stuff unless you know what it does already. And there's tons of things. I mean, even I've been doing this for about 10 years, and there's still a ton of things I've never even really screwed around with because I just never had a reason to. So this does title safe. So when you're making broadcast video, it shows you where screens will clip off. So a lot of times TV production wants you to use those. This shows your masks and shapes. So when you start drawing shapes or masks around objects and layers, that turns on and off whether it shows in here. So if you've got a mask, you're like, I can't see it. Why can't I change it? There's a good chance you accidentally click that off. There's your time. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Usually when I'm working, I like to look at it at quarter res. Full res is for when you really want to make sure everything looks good on a pixel by pixel level. So we'll just work in quarter for now because we don't need it to look perfect. This stuff is for changing your camera view once you start using cameras in later projects. This view option lets you create other viewing windows up here, and you can split it and look from different camera angles and stuff. Most of these things you just don't need to screw around with, so we'll leave them alone for now, and if they come up later, we'll address them then. So his first assignment was to use this name tag stuff. What do we got here? Okay, we got like a paint-looking thing, some cool shapes. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of this is. These are just some files I had laying around. But I know we're going to want this, or at least I will. You can use your own if you find something. But the whole point is to get something like what the client said. So there. This isn't necessarily one where you're supposed to learn about masking. So you can either do this in Photoshop and cut it out and save it with transparency, or I'm just going to make a quick mask here using the pen tool. And masks are exactly what you would think if you know how to use them in Photoshop, where it just can add or remove information from a JPEG or a video or whatever it is you want. And by information, I mean like what shows. So there, see? Now I just cut it out. So we got the name tag. There's some music in here, so I'll go ahead and I like this one. I'll drop this in. So I've got this track down on the bottom, and you'll notice when you scroll it doesn't play, but if you hold the command key, or I think it's control on a PC, then you can scrub it and it'll play back. And I don't think you can hear it playing back through Camtasia, but it is. I can hear it when I scrub. And your preview play stop will play audio too, usually. You can turn that off and on in the settings for that. But if you want to hear your audio while you're going, those are two good ways to do it. So in case you didn't have me for 101, 118, or someone else who told you, so when you twiddle down this little arrow on the side of your layers, that is going to show you all of their basic transform attributes. So anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. Position is pretty straightforward. It's just where it is. Scale is the size, rotation. Transparency, opacity is how visible it is. The anchor point one is a little more confusing. So this is the pan behind tool up in the corner, and that is a good thing to use. You can see here's the anchor, and you can move it somewhere. So for instance, if for some reason I needed to rotate it around this corner, now when I change my rotation values, it'll use that as an anchor. We don't really need to screw with that right now, though, so we'll do this. And again, if you don't remember, clicking the stopwatch is what sets a keyframe where you are. And I'm going to do these little mountains down here so I have more space. There we go. Okay, so I can see every second of my animation now. Clicking the stopwatch starts your keyframing, so it says right here, this is a position, and then at 1 second, we'll have it be at this position. And I'll put it somewhere. So why don't I go ahead and put it in the middle, and then I'll move this keyframe. And there, now it's somewhere else, and it's going to, just interpolate between those two keyframes. So we'll do something interesting for the background, maybe. Oh, this is kind of cool. I don't know what this is, but here we go. Let's put it back here, and I'm going to drag it below. So just like in Photoshop, they just stack on top of each other. So, hi, my name is, and I'll use the text tool. I'll go ahead and put my name in there. Matt. Oh, it's white. I don't want my name to be all white right now. Marcel script. I don't know what that is. Oh, ugh. Okay. Well, here, I'm going to choose a terrible font so that I'm a cautionary tale right now. matte there. And then this isn't really extensively going to be about parenting, but since I want this text to always be wherever my name tag is, and actually let me go ahead and rename this name tag one because that's a terrible file name. There. And this will be my background. There we go. This over here is the pick whip, and it's this little squiggly thing, and you click it and drag it to the layer you want to attach it to. So basically you're going to tie these two layers together, and they will keep the relationship they have right here. So now when the name tag moves, my name moves with it. Another thing, one of the things we're trying to get through in this first module is not only how some of the basic user interface works, but how to keep it nice and neat. So for instance, if we were doing this and we had I don't know, let's say our background layer, we wanted to scale it up, and we wanted to have that happen over and over. And you can hit Apple D to duplicate a layer, and we wanted it to be another one. So that one scales up. Oh, this one. That one scales. And we're going to split the layer and delete it, and then have this one. So scales. Let's say we were doing that over and over, and we wanted lots of them. This isn't really going to be any kind of animation. It's just to demonstrate one simple thing. So we've got all these layers now, real fast. And if I want to keep track of which ones are which, labels, these little labels, are generated automatically based on what file type. So that's another good reason to organize by file types, is you know what color they're going to be when they come in. But a lot of times when people hand off templates, or they have been working on files that have hundreds of layers, it's a good idea to color code them yourself in ways that you recognize. So for instance, I know that this is the second set, and then if I need another set, I'll go ahead and color those ones another color. But just keep in mind that a lot of these are the default color for certain things. So like, for instance, making this name tag pink might seem like a good idea right now, but if I need to use, right click over here, new camera. Okay. Cameras are automatically pink. So, if you were just looking at it real quick, you might go, oh, it's a camera, but it is not. So, try to be sensible in what you label things if you want to change them around. But that's all a part of keeping your After Effects files nice and neat. So here, I've already done pretty quick. There's my name tag. There's kind of a stylized background. And I'm going to encourage you to just, once you've got this shape in the background and you got something neat, just try out a few random effects on it to see what they do. Because that's a part of the fun of After Effects, I think, is, I don't know, I like Colorama to generate weird effects. Oops, it won't work on that because that's not the top layer. So let me put it on the top layer. There we go. But like, for instance, this, it just sort of unpredictable effect sometimes. I mean, technically you could predict it if you knew how it worked, but you can do a lot of crazy stuff with it. So yeah, there, I got my little name animation. I would probably do more stuff with it if I were turning it in for real, just one for fun and two to sort of explore the interface. So when you're done and you've got the section you want to render out, hit N to end your work area. So B begins a work area and ends one. And there you've got it. And go to Composition, Add to Render Queue. And then once you're in here, we're probably not going to want to do it lossless because those will be really big files. So you will have to go in and change your format options. And there's so many options, but I recommend Photo JPEG, PNG if you need transparency. H.264 works pretty good. MPEG works just fine. There's a lot of good ones, but my favorite ones to use are Photo JPEG because it does decent compression without having huge. The file sizes are pretty small and it still looks pretty good. Yeah, so then render it out, and it's going to ask you where to put it. So you click on this, and that will let you tell it where to go. Yeah, and then make sure you look at the course information for how to submit correctly these things. So that's it for here. Hopefully you got everything you were hoping to get out of this first one. I did a version of this demo and then accidentally deleted it because I was still learning how to use Camtasia. So hopefully I covered everything and didn't forget anything thinking it was in the other one. If you have any questions, please email me or just check in at one of our weekly Skype meetings. Thanks.